Welcome to the Make and Design Podcast. I'm your host, Carina Gardner. On this podcast, we're unraveling the everyday joys and dilemmas of design, making, and business. For makers who want to be designers and for designers who are makers, this is your inside scoop to help you grow your business and bring more creativity to your life. At the time of recording this, I have just finished an Illustrator Wiz Workshop. This is a workshop that I kind of dreamed up thinking, what would it look like if virtually, like usually I'm used to everybody in a classroom with me, we learned Illustrator, okay? This is really different than just teaching a digital course, which I have multiple courses that are just Illustrator. They're all in Design Suite, Illustrator Academy, Illustrator for Beginners, like all of that good stuff. But this is the first time I was like, what would it look like to do a daytime, like a 5-hour Illustrator course with people where they were trying to actually use Illustrator with me virtually. And so that's when I started really, I didn't know what it was going to look like is the bottom line. I put it out there. We had so many signups. Plus we invited all of Design Suite to come in. Because once you're in Design Suite, I'm always giving you everything because I just want you to become a designer. Like once you're in the program, I am invested in you and I want you to become a designer. And so I try to give you as much as I possibly can. Anyway, I just really didn't know what it was going to look like. And I found it so powerful to be able to do this workshop. And I wanted to talk to you about some of my takeaways from it. The main one being that when we let someone else help us learn the hard software, I think it is much less frustrating. I personally learned Illustrator on my own. I know most of my designers are self-taught. A lot of that has to do with our age as well, right? Like anyone who's about 5 years older than me, they weren't getting the software in graphic design school because it was just that new. I mean, I tell the story often about I was a graduate student teaching foundations of graphic design, and 2 weeks before they pulled Quark, which nobody uses anymore. Okay, they pulled Quark because they couldn't get the licensing for it, and they told us 2 weeks before you have to learn InDesign because that's what you're going to be teaching the students this semester. So literally, the teachers, all the professors, we were all learning the programs on our own as we were teaching it to the students. Like that's the way that was going. And so I just remember that so vividly, which is crazy. I think I was 24 when I first started teaching graphic design at the University of Minnesota. And it was crazy. It was crazy times. And so now it's been a long time since I started learning the software, but I remember how frustrated my students would get. I would remember how daunting it was to have to open up the software and you have this vision in your head of what you want to do, and then you can't realize it. You can't execute it, which is huge because execution is everything, right? As a designer. So doing this Illustrator Wiz Workshop was so eye-opening. And by the way, we've made it available as a replay now, so you can buy it. But we did it live. And what I did was I had a workbook, so I knew exactly what we were going to teach. I was hopeful I could teach more, but I was trying to be very realistic. And every hour or so, we would stop and help people if they were lost. So they would come on to as another host on my my screen, and then I wouldn't take over their screen. I would just direct them so that they could go through the motions and do it themselves. I wanted their hands actually doing it, because if I took over their screen, I was like, do this, do this, do this, they're not actually going to learn it, right? But instead, it was so awesome to see everybody who was stuck, especially at the beginning stages, because if you can't get those first few steps done, you just give up, right? Like if you can't get that rectangle up, you can't make the bleed line, you are having difficulty setting up the type or moving the type, then you just give up on anything else. And by the end of it, I taught repeat patterns, and it was so cool. There were so many people that were like, oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind. This is so crazy. And I'm just like, yeah, this is the good stuff. But it's like, if you get stuck on just making the rectangles, which guess what? There is no shame in getting stuck at the rectangles because you don't know where all the tools are, right? Then you're never going to get to the part where you can build cool patterns, right? So it was so fun. We had probably at least three, at the very first hour, we had 3 people come on and I helped direct them to most everyone for this particular workshop. If you're considering coming to another one, which we're considering doing more of these because it was so successful, they would have on their phone, they would be watching me, and on their computer, they'd be working in Illustrator, which I loved. Or they'd have it on an iPad. A few people said they had 2 computers up so they could watch me on one and they could work on the other. And so it was really cool for them to let me get onto their screen and see what they were doing, direct them through, like step by step. And then on the opposite end, people who had their phone, they would just flip their phone camera around, show me on their computer what they were working on. And I could walk them through, which was hard, by the way, because Jen had come on, we were working on a repeat border, and she's like trying to do her fingers, like get the control keys while she's holding her phone. So it's not easy. But here's the thing. I think everyone walked away from that workshop understanding how to do really good basic. And to me, basic doesn't mean basic. Basic means if you can learn all the basic functions in Illustrator, like the ones that really matter, that work, suddenly you can take that and it becomes really exquisite, really intricate work, okay? Because you really only have to know a few things in Illustrator to create intricate work. And that's kind of what I'm doing in this Illustrator workshop series. I'm choosing different projects for us to do so that you get so comfortable in the program that you're just like, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that. It's just super exciting. So just so you know, Illustrator Workshop 1 is available for the replay, so you might want to check that out. I'm just going to leave it on replay. It's available for this year, for 2022. And so if you want to go check that, you can. Or I'm sure by the time this podcast airs, we will have a new date on the calendar for another one of these. It's going to be totally different, still beginner, but different project. Because when we start coming at things from different angles, different design work from different angles, we start to see we're using the same tools, but these tools now can do this for me, or these tools can do this for me. So it becomes really, really powerful. That live session is powerful because if you are stuck, if you're someone who's scared and worried and feel like you can't move forward, come to a live session and let me help you. I want to help you. Even though we had so many people there, we had a lot of people there. Usually only a few, and hopefully you're one of them, raises your hand and says, hey, I'm stuck right here. And I'm like, great, let's do this, okay? Because I guarantee the people who were raising their hands, they're not the only ones who have that same question. They're not the only ones who are still stuck in that way. Does that make sense? And then I try at the end of the workshop to show something that's a little more advanced so that even people who are in the intermediate stages are getting something they probably haven't seen before or that they can use that's really brilliant. All right. If you have a chance, go check that out. The last thing I'm going to ask you is if you have been listening to this podcast and you have not left me a review, please, 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 this is me begging you to leave me a review. We are past 100 episodes. We're moving forward. I love giving you this content 3 times a week and just kind of telling you really what's going on for real in my design world, which is really fun. And I would love for you to give me a review. Reviews really help make this podcast go, and it will help me continue to produce content for you. So make sure and leave me a review, and I appreciate it so much, and I can't wait to see you in our next episode. Hey, did you know that you can visit me at makeanddesign.com to learn more about this podcast and join my VIP group for weekly freebies? I can't wait to see you there.